when Mayor Kennedy talks about housing, it's very clear to the people of Vancouver. Mr. Mayor has made that one of his priorities. His biggest priority is to tackle housing, and that's something that I am absolutely committed to doing as well. Being from Burnaby, now representing Burnaby South, we know that this is something that keeps people up at night. Families that have a home are worried about their kids and whether they can ever have a place to call home. People are leaving the city because they cannot find affordable housing, and we want to put an end to that. So we're putting a massive investment in housing as a priority for us as a federal party. We also want to tackle some of the root causes of the astronomical skyrocketing cost of housing, and that's ending speculation with a federal foreign buyers tax to supplement the provincial tax, as well as some concerted efforts to crack down on money laundering, which would involve putting in a national registry similar to what BC has done to make sure there's no anonymous buying of homes and that we can clamp down on money laundering. And secondly, we want to make sure that, or thirdly, finally, we want to make sure that we fund the RCMP to be able to tackle specifically money laundering. And we're going to allocate a significant investment in targeted funding for an anti-money laundering unit, with half of that funding going to BC to help the BC government and here in Vancouver tackle this massive crisis. On the opioid crisis, you can tell from the mayor that he has a compassion for the people that are losing their lives to this crisis. The approach that the federal government has done has lacked that compassion, has lacked that care, and has not acknowledged that there's a serious crisis in our country. And so to respond to that seriousness, a new Democratic government would call a national public emergency, a national public health emergency immediately, opening up funding and a legislative framework to help out those who are providing care on the ground, at the front lines. In addition to that, we want to respond to the crisis with compassion, not with criminal justice, but with social justice. So we want to end the criminalization of drug addiction. That needs to be done immediately. And with mayors like Mayor Kennedy, we can work together towards solving the problems on the ground with better supports, better assistance, and better funding. And then with transit, that is also one of our key platforms to reduce our emissions. Mr. Kennedy is well known. Mayor Kennedy is well known as someone who's been a fierce defender of the environment. One of the ways we can do that is to ensure that we've got public transit. One of the third largest contributors of the greenhouse gas emissions is transportation. And if we invest in public transit, we can increase the quality of life, but we can also reduce emissions. And so we want not only to invest massively in public transit with direct allocation funding to help out cities directly, we also want to make sure that we electrify that public transit to make sure it's zero emissions and doing our part to reduce emissions, increasing public transit, fighting the climate crisis, and improving the quality of life.